You're listening to Morning Inspiration Radio Show. MorningInspirationRadioShow.com. Now here's your host, Dial Tone, the producer.
What up, everybody? This is your man, Dial Tone, the producer, back again with another exciting episode of Morning Inspiration. And my special guest is live on the air with me. Goes by the name of Coursey. He is a gamer and a game designer. That's right. He is the CEO and founder of CourEntertainment LLC, which is responsible for creating PC games and CGI films, all designed by Coursey. Now, here's the great thing about this young man we're getting ready to bring to you all. He's doing this out of the sheer love and passion for what he does, and I can't wait to jump into this interview to introduce my awesome guest to you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, my special guest live on the phone, none other than the founder of CourEntertainment LLC, Coursey. What's going on? Welcome to Morning Inspiration, bro.
Thank you.
Glad you could be with us today on the show. Now, my first question to you is, what got you into gaming? Where did this love for gaming and creating and designing PC programs come from?
It's the greatest aspect of storytelling, and it's the only part of storytelling where the viewer or the player actually wants to learn more about the story. In order to be more immersed into the story, they actually want to take a front row seat and actually control what that character does. And when you see of how in ancient Greece, how things worked out, the most common form of entertainment was also the most common form of education, and that was the theater. That's where you get most of the people knowing the story about Homer, the Iliad, the Odyssey. Those types of stories, they were passed down orally, and it was all done through theater. Nowadays, we have more people concerned about entertainment as far as what they spend their time on, rather than the actual education part of learning through the ages. So my company is driven towards getting people to be educated through entertainment.
That's different. I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect that answer, because most of the time when we're playing games, it's very entertaining, more so than it is educational. But then now that you put it in that perspective, we do educate ourselves on games. Just the other day, my son was playing Assassin's Creed, and we're kind of going over the history lessons that he was learning in school before the summer hit, and some of the correlations with the game. So this is actually a true statement. Now, how often do you think people actually recognize they're being educated when they're playing games?
Not that often. The bottom line before creating any game, you have to follow the first 3 R's. Research, research, research. You have to research the story. You have to research how people dress and how people behave, the language they use, what tools they use, how different governments, how different merchants, how people lived on a day-to-day basis. And some companies, the most powerful companies like Electronic Arts or Lucasfilm, they spend tens of thousands of dollars before certain games are made that they do, if it's not a racing game, sending those people out to just do history tours, and they get private tours. They're able to see how a prisoner would have lived in the Tower of London. They would be able to see how a castle was built. They also go to Renaissance fairs to see how a person makes chainmail, or how a blacksmith works day to day, how much they get paid for it. So there is a lot of research on the historical part of it. When you make futuristic games, your research comes more of the on the concept end of what companies are doing today.
Okay.
So it's more of identifying trends of the past, of like, take the telephone, for example. How was the telephone made? What were the technologies that had to be put in place before the phone was made in order to finally create the phone? And then see where companies today are trying to make tomorrow's products, and then say, all right, well, this is the trend, making them smaller, having them do more than one thing. So what other things can we have in the smaller package? And that's how you create the more science fiction realm. And TV writers do this as well, for the different sci-fi channels and movies.
So this is very, very interesting to find out, because a lot of times we don't see the detail and the backing of what goes on in the process of creating these games. Now, games get a lot of flack from parents and older generations, because they always deem games to be mind warping, or too much violence, or whatever the case is. But Do you see a benefit to gaming as far as, development and involvement for younger kids?
Yes, I do. And it also depends on what type of games we're talking about.
Okay.
There's a couple of news articles that were released earlier this year about how Ivy League schools are looking more towards finding students who play games like World of Warcraft because they showed that they have team building skills. There's groups that are called guilds where people team up for a common agenda and they help each other out, and they have to rank up not only in the game but with their own guild. And they set their own rules, they set their own reward systems, and companies basically do that all the time. Like if you stay here long enough or if you work this many hours, you get these sorts of benefits. And many countries, such as like South Korea, Argentina, Brazil, they look for interns based on what games they play.
Okay.
The fact that you could be a team player and the fact that you're willing to put in the time and the energy and the effort and help one another out will dictate your employment status. So I see it as children who are able to learn that and not take the single player path, like, oh, I could do everything myself. They will be involved in a world where it is growing more connected, and you do have to work with more people than ever before. So there is a benefit to it. The violence part of it, I do see that as it is training you to be a faster thinker. It is trying to train your reflexes to respond in a certain way. But it does have a negative side, and that negative side being it does sort of desensitize people to certain types of violence.
Right.
Where what you see on the news, it just doesn't surprise them. There was another study, it was done by Yale in 2008. It stated that video games don't make you a killer. It just makes you a more efficient one, that you already have that motive, that drive to be that way. Video games just kind of make you more efficient at it. So it is a double-edged sword. It just really depends on not only good parenting, but also what games the child or the person plays over time. So yeah, with the two different types of gamers, there's a hardcore gamer and a softcore gamer, or weekender, which is what people in the gaming industry call it. A hardcore gamer is a person who plays one game for more than 20 hours a week.
Wow.
Anything less than that, they're considered a weekender or softcore gamer. The games that big companies are looking to hire people who play them, they're looking for people who are hardcore gamers in more than just one game if it isn't a large game like World of Warcraft.
Got it. So my next question to you is how long have you been into this field of gaming and designing games?
Well, I did go to the International Academy of Design and Technology in 2010, but two of our products that I came up with, I've been working them out. I would say one of them from 2008 and another one since 2006. It just really came down to the storyline and the complexity of it. And now you kind of see this model and let's see. I guess the greatest example would be like Game of Thrones, where you see multiple main characters' viewpoints. You get to see the story. It's more of the world story and what the characters do in it. So that's for our first product. I'm calling it Trilemma, and it's just a placeholder. It's a three-sided battle. And it's basically evolution through the ages as far as human civilization goes, and where certain influences come from. And you keep playing as the descendant character, and you finally make it to modern times. And it's all about, wise decision making. Like if you focus all on money, sooner or later, if you keep that hardcore focus on it, you'll end up being like one of the richest families that people talk about nowadays, like the Vanderbilts or the Soros family.
The Rockefellers.
If you're more of a combatant, even though it's short-lived, there are tales being taught about your ancestors in the game, about the amazing gladiator who was invincible up until a certain time, and there's legends about him. So it's just more of having people understand like how legends and myths were developed through time and over thousands of years, where they finally lead to into today's world. With the game that I'm crowdfunding now, it is a space game where it's supposed to be diplomatic relations between Earth and Mars after Mars is colonized, and how different groups may exploit it and how different groups will settle disputes.
Got it.
And, it's one thing when you say that there's a designated building in New York City called the United Nations,
Mm-hmm.
and people congregate there to discuss, how they're going to improve foreign relations. It's going to be something completely different when you have two planets involved and you have to go meet somewhere in outer space.
Oh, okay. It's a nice little twist to it. So this is all done in your company. Now tell us about your company, CourEntertainment LLC.
CourEntertainment is a family-owned entertainment company.
Okay.
We do deal with simulation, games, and CGI film. And just to cut this part short, any game that's too complicated for us to make at the present moment, we will be making a CGI film about it in order to, to ramp up the production of the certain assets that we'll need, like character models, buildings, different types of armor, weapons, tools, anything that we'll need for the game to be possible.
Mm.
We also want to get into 3D printing. I do own a M3D mini printer. It does print in plastic, so I've been taking some of the models that we do have and trying to tweak them to see if they would actually come out to be really nice. And what we've noticed is a lot of people, they do like to have a physical object that represents something from the game that they've been spending so many hours on.
Right.
So we want to be able to get into 3D printing, so this way you can 3D print your character or have a scene 3D printed, or even a certain building or even a spaceship 3D printed for you. So it's a little bit more tangible to what your time in the game reflects into a little object or a little trinket.
Okay. Now tell us about first of all, the game that you're currently working on right now that you're crowdfunding. What's the name of this particular game?
Right now, the placeholder name, just for copyright reasons, is called Spaceopolis.
Okay.
It does have a better name, I promise you that. And it's basically a game where once Mars is colonized, that they decide that they don't really need the connection to Earth as far as politics, trade, and all those other things. They feel that they could do it on their own. And
Okay.
seeing as how there's no oversight from Big Brother being on Earth, they decide to dice up Mars and basically run things their own way. Obviously, when you look through history, anybody who decides to be cut off from their parent throughout history, there's always been some sort of civil war,
Right.
or even like a war for independence.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue is of how long it takes to get from Earth to Mars. That a simple conversation or surrendering would be able to fix that problem. But you think about the cost of how much it takes to send things to space, and 2 years going from Earth to Mars.
Right.
That's kind of like a one-way ticket where you've already sent everybody that way. So you have to kind of play smart.
Will we get the
Yeah,
storyline of why they left to go to Mars, or is it just starting right at the colonization?
The reason why is because of taxation. It also has to do with the materials that they ask for. Instead of being able to make them there locally,
Mm-hmm.
that they take on increased debt to different governments and different factions on Earth.
Okay.
And corporations come in to try to take resources from Mars and then send them to Earth and then resend the products back out. And people on Mars really think that they could do it on their own.
Okay.
And they're just not given a chance to that. And the interesting thing is with the story for the colonies on Mars is the countries that are space-bearing countries where they can actually send people to Mars.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of carved out their own territory starting from scratch. It's not like how we have it here on Earth where for thousands of years, different kingdoms, different empires have kind of carved out their own territories. And then, we have what we have today. So there's really like no land disputes, but it has to do more with where the richest minerals deposits at, where is it the smoothest to build, where is there actually like rivers, where's there water, where's the best place to actually colonize and actually have a boom in the population on another planet.
And this will be up to the gamer to discover this while playing the game?
Yes.
Wow. That's pretty cool, because one of the things I found very interesting, I like a lot of, what is his name? McClancy games. What do you call it? Splinter
Tom
Cell.
Clancy.
Tom McClancy, yeah.
Splinter Cell.
I love games where you have to think and kind of, mastermind and strategize on your own, as opposed to an arrow saying go this way, or something lighting up and,
Exactly.
you know what I mean, becoming apparent to you like, oh, obviously I'm supposed to hit this button. It is kind of nerve wracking because you're like, what am I supposed to do? I'm stuck in this level. I don't know where to go. But at the same time, when you are playing a game and you get to use your own, especially if there's more ways to skin a cat in this particular, stage of the
Hmm.
game, it makes you feel good that you can try different ways. So that is pretty good. Now, as far as the gamer who's playing this game, is this going to be like in first person, or how's the actual action of the game going to look?
There's two different play styles that's all going to be in the same game. So basically, there's going to be a server where hundreds of people can get into the same game. If they choose to be a soldier or a merchant character,
Hmm.
they will see things through the first person perspective.
Got it.
And they'll have to work with people who are building and expanding the colony, and also creating territories for the control that they have. And those people would be the officers or city builders, and they'll see everything from the top down perspective. So while the officer builds more military um, assets like barracks, training grounds, um, science labs. The city builder builds more of like the capital, farms,
Hmm.
um, different things that the colony will actually need to be self-sustaining as far as infrastructure is concerned.
Got it.
So the main ordeal is that you can only get, as a individual character, you're only going to be able to experience 1/4 of the game, depending on which one you choose. And
Really?
you can play through the game all as one type of character, but to basically be able to see the timeline from the merchant's perspective, through the soldier's perspective, from the officer and the city builder perspective, you're able to get more of an idea and more of a story as to how people work and cooperate with one another, and also the faults that come with the job. Like a city builder also has to work with people who are deciding where a launch pad is going to go,
Right.
or where different drones are being sent in from another space, another colony, or from somewhere out in outer space that it's convenient for them, but it's not convenient for you. So, in all the little different aspects, politics and understanding how the economy works, and also city planning and everything that involves with human cooperation, as far as how a nation or how a society that is trying to revitalize itself or surrounding its neighbors kind of has to do throughout time.
Wow, that's incredible because it gives people a chance to form an alliance. Now, when you're playing this
Mhm.
game, how many different people can actually be in one alliance? Is it unlimited or is it limited?
With what I've been discussing with my team, some people are kind of divided. Some people have been saying, 50 people for an alliance. Other people have been bringing up older models of how games work, where it's not really unlimited. It's more of the numerical requirements in order to create like a faction. And if I may, there's an older game by Monolith Productions for the PC called Matrix Online.
Okay.
In order to create a faction, you had to have two crews together. So, like whatever was on the hover ship in the movies, it's
Hmm.
about 5 to 9 people. In order to start a crew, you need 5 people. So, in order to create a faction, you need two crews. So that's 10 people minimum.
Got it. Got it.
So, one side of the team is more on numerical requirements to build up to an alliance. Otherwise, you're just a team, or you're just a faction, or just a small guild, or just a squad.
Mhm.
The other side is more of like on the limited part of it. And I guess the greatest concern from our technical design is, what if everybody allies together? Does everybody automatically win? Um, so there would have to be some numerical constraints, but right now uh, we're working on the benefits and downsides of both models.
Got it. Got it. This sounds like an awesome game, and I know I'm not gonna even lie. I'm not a hardcore gamer. I am more like a soft core or weekender. But I know people who are hardcore gamers, and they would definitely want to get their hands on this. Now, you have a crowdfunding that you got going on. Tell us all about that.
All right, so we're trying to raise $200,000, and what this will do is enable us to hire 10 3D modelers who will also be doing the 3D model animation and the texture art. And what this will do is it will cut off 16 months of our production time. Without this, our game is looking to come out November 29th of 2019. We're trying to get the beta out this year. So if we're able to raise this money, we can get a beta launch going, and sometime early the following year, we'll be able to actually release the game. So this is more of dealing with how production is going to be cut and allowing people who are interested in this game to leave valuable feedback for us to improve and fix broken parts of the game. And there are a lot of people who say that you don't need to go into beta phase. That is definitely untrue. Any game that either speeds through the beta phase or never hits it always comes out with a broken game, and people would rather play a game with bad storyline but awesome graphics and awesome team play rather than playing a broken game that just doesn't work.
Right.
So our main focus is this is a complicated game. It is complex as far as what the programming will require the PC in order to use the performance of every asset and what the characters need to do. And for us to actually make it to beta early and to test all those things and have player feedback would definitely cut the time off our end to get everything out there and to create a non-broken finished product.
Got it. So what we're trying to do, ladies and gentlemen, is help Chris and his team put together this awesome game. You heard the idea, you heard the storyline, the plot, the concept is great. I think for especially like hardcore games that really, really love to play PC games and connect with people across the world and form an alliance, you can be a part of helping them fund this and actually playing this game come 2019. Now, tell everybody, what is the GoFundMe link if they want to start donating right now?
Oh, they can go on GoFundMe and search CourEntertainment, CourEntertainment, CourEntertainment is one word. They could also search by Spaceopolis, SPACE-OPOLIS.
Now, for the people who's listening, that's saying, you know what, I'm getting ready to go right now and start helping them fund this game. What is in it for them?
The incentives, we actually have multiple incentives. People who do help us out with the crowdfunding, we have open slots for voiceover work, and we have over 200 voiceover slots available for people. And we're looking for men, women, children, anyone who wants to have their voice do a character's voice. We're also looking for musicians to help create the soundtrack for us. And with both the voiceover and the music, you will be getting full credit for what you contribute to this. You could add it to your portfolio if you're into voiceover work or you're just trying to, get your music art out there. This will be your greatest launch. To actually show in a portfolio, you could have your voice, your music in a game that is selling would be a great benefit to you.
Yes, it
would. For
would.
those who are interested and maybe only do like a $5 campaign or they help advertise things, we have 255 assets that they just have description names. They don't have an actual name. Like, for example, the Mars lander is just called the Mars lander. It's not called the Mars surface to air photographer on Mars. So that's how we kind of have certain assets named. We're looking for more actual naming conventions for the next 255 assets. And there are things from armor, spacesuits, vehicles, and also props that are within the game. So for those who are listening, there are incentives that, you will be getting credit for it. And also those who decide not to do any of those things, but just donate, you will have your name at the end of the credits, where we do have a thank you for all those who helped us out. And your name will be on there.
That is pretty cool, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't get any better than that. So you're getting an awesome game, and you're getting an opportunity to hear and see yourself in the game, get full credit for what you have done by simply helping out and supporting. Now, your goal is 200,000, correct?
Correct.
So what happens if let's just say you get enough people to pour into this project where you exceed your goal? What happens then?
When we exceed our goal, that will be put towards making Trilemma, the CGI series that we want to do. more of a reality. A lot of the assets between the two, because the generational game that is becoming CGI film, it does go through the ages and it does dabble a little bit into the future. These two projects are on the same timeline. So assets that will need to be converted from just the game format to the CGI film will actually be able to have our programmers and our animators spend a little bit more time making them just right. Okay. This way that you'll experience a higher quality CGI film that's more fluid, and it will help us out with the production for 3D print. So this way you could assemble them yourself. You'll be able to actually be able to paint them. They won't be too small. They'll be higher detailed. So in the long run, the project is a multifaceted project that kind of deals into everything else we're doing.
Well, it seems like you really, really have a lot of excitement for this particular project, and I believe it's going to be a great success. I think we're going to get a lot of people that's going to be able to donate, support, and possibly be a part of the project. It seems like you and your team are going in the right direction. What is your vision for your team moving forward? What do you see as far as growth for your company?
When it comes to growth, what we really want to do is reach out to other audiences from other parts of the world. And being here in America, we do get to experience very multicultural, multi-ethnic culture that, you're able to see everyone's viewpoints and see them for their merits. You're able to see certain faults as far as like the evolution of belief systems. And you're able to take all that into consideration and say to yourself, like, this is how it is now. And, what if people just realized some of how it took to get here? Would there be a more positive impact on today's world if people were able to accept that?
Right.
So our team really wants to span out into China, Japan. We really want to go to Egypt and South Africa. We really want to have a foothold in France and London and Germany. And when you look at those markets as far as entertainment goes, they are really trying to catch up to America as far as being multicultural, being multi-ethnic, showing different religious belief systems, cooperating together, and basically build on that diplomatic approach. So our team really just wants to get out there and, be able to hire more people to have more insight, because one person can only do so much research into history, into theology, into sociology, into economics, that to have more people on board from across the world, you can take that experience and put it to good use.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. You have a phenomenal concept idea. I think is just crazy what this could be once it is complete. Now, when you're creating and when you're putting these projects together, like, do you ever say to yourself, I want to produce or put something out there in the ether that's completely different from every other gaming design program or company, or is it just, I want to make sure I put out something that's competitive with everybody else?
When it comes to graphics and the overall experience, we do want to be competitive with other people.
Okay.
But the storylines to our projects, how long we want them to have shelf life, if you want to put it that way, and what we want people to learn from these is supposed to be, completely different from anyone else. That our games are going to be entertainment that's also a simulation, something you could take into the real world, and it has value. That the time that you spend playing a game could actually make you a better person as far as skill set goes, to have gainful employment, to be a more successful participant in your community, or even become a community leader. So when we look at these products, and there's 25 of them, the only ones I've talked about here are just 2 of them. They're really all about enhancing your experience so that you can help others, you can help your family, that you're able to leave a better world than what you were born into.
I love it. That's leaving your fingerprint on this earth. I think a lot of people don't understand, and I ask a lot of creative people who come on this show this particular question, and I think you just answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How important is it for people like yourself who are creators and understand their powers to use their creativity to send a message that they feel strong about?
It's the best way to get a message across. You look at almost any artist that just did what they did because they just felt like it. They were kind of short-lived. kind of one-hit wonders, but the ones who actually had a message, the ones who actually wanted to tell people an important story, to share an experience. Art is, in all parts of life. And one of the things that I've noticed that gets some people down is a lot of people say like, oh, I'm just an oil painter. Who's going to buy my art? You can't have that perspective that no one's going to be interested in it. We live in an amazing time where you can reach millions of people on social media, radio. You could even call people. We just live in that amazing time where there is a lot of sharing going on, and especially with the age of information and the internet being what it is, you're only like 6 to 9 people away from knowing everyone in the world. So it's easy to get your message out there, and it's easy to learn from other people. Just because you don't find value in some of the parts of your own creation doesn't mean someone else may find value in it. A lot of the history's greatest mathematicians had no idea what math they were creating, and we use that in algebra, we use that in calculus. It happens all the time, and you just really have to stick with your gut and don't take no for an answer. Always try pushing, always try cooperating with somebody, and it really doesn't have to do with the money when it comes to the creative part. Just for argument's sake, I started this company with just pen and paper, and line paper, graph paper, and a pen, and just started creating. And we have 25 products that are all in various stages of production.
Wow.
And all you have to do is pick up a book, read from your influences, research your greatest movie and TV producers, see how they wrote things, see what influenced them. They're not hard to find. A lot of these creative people who are successful are very open about who inspired them, and what was the one song that pushed them to dedicate more time than just a weekend to this one project. What painting did they see that touched them in the right way, that pushed them to doing art in their own style? What started somebody wanting to write a book? Like, what was it that they read? What was it that they experienced? And there's over 300 billion people on this planet. That's over 300 billion different experiences that you can learn from and connect to. And just find the ones that resonate together, find the one that resonates with your story, and you can move forward with that.
That's incredible and great advice. Now, speaking of influences, I can easily ask you who's your influences in the gaming industry, but in life, period, who influences Chris?
I would say that it would be my grandfather and my father. My grandfather, he was a Sicilian immigrant, came over during World War II, and he taught me to basically never take no for an answer. And just because 5 out of 10 people tell you that they don't like it doesn't mean the other 5 won't like it. And to always work on what you feel is right to move forward. My father, he's a mathematician and engineer. He used to work for Northrop Grumman. He really pushed for me to understand how things work. And if I was very interested in certain movies, to understand why they did certain things a certain way, he would push me to reading and just watching videos of how those people did their work and how they pushed forward towards making a finished product. He's kind of the foundation of this company, not only as a business manager, but also I run through every idea past him. He also plays games. I wouldn't say he's a hardcore gamer. He's kind of on the line about it. But he understands the games that he saw me being influenced by growing up. And he's able to understand where I come from on a lot of things. And he's a history buff just like me. So we run through things, and basically if you can't question it and you don't have an answer for that question, then it's not worth putting in. So that's kind of like how we formulated that relationship to push this company forward with our product line.
2 great examples, with your grandfather and your father leaving you some core values to live by and to move forward with. And this is the amazing thing. When you get wisdom like that, you can always carry it to the next generation. So with that being said, what would you say to a young gamer that wants to get into design? They don't know. Most of the time, here's a problem with a lot of my listeners, especially when they write into the show. A lot of them are entrepreneurs or have ideas to be entrepreneurs. A lot of them have great ideas, And the biggest problem they all have is, how do I get started? Where do I get started? What is some type of advice you would give to a young gamer that's maybe a version of you at a younger age?
That is a really good question. And if you asked me a couple of years ago, I wouldn't know how to answer you. But since then, I have read many books that did deal with the subject. And the greatest one I found was it's a book from the Renaissance. It's called The Prince. A lot of people don't like it because it deals with the truth of how great leaders and how great conquerors and great politicians and senators are born. But the greatest thing I took from that was, before you start creating your own unique design or patent or any part about anything, before you add the you part to it, you have to follow in the steps of great men. You have to be able to sit there and put the time and effort and energy into something in order for it to be worth something later on. You have to be willing to negotiate with people, even if they're people you don't even like. Like, you don't want to go deal with the bank. You know, sometimes for financing, you have to.
Right.
You have to be able to sit and just put that time into researching and knowing what you're getting into. And even in, and I know this is also another controversial book, Donald Trump's book, The Art of the Deal. In some of his chapters, he says it's just like with Thomas Edison. He's received more no's than he's ever received a yes. And it's that drive, that knowing that, all right, cool, there's 100 million people in this field, and I only asked 100 of them, and the first 100 said no. Mathematically, that tells me I will get to a yes. You have to be positive and just look at what you're trying to do, and look at the world and how it's changing. And if you follow the path of great men, I'm not going to say it's going to make your life easier, but you're able to scale how impactful your product is going to be onto the world, and you're able to appreciate the struggle that you went through in order to make it. And ultimately, when you have children, you're able to sit down and they ask you, how were you able to build what you did? You can tell them, it wasn't easy. No one handed it to you. I actually had to work hard. And we're moving towards a world where there's going to be less work. There's going to be more at your fingertips. And those who are willing to go against that system and utilize it to work hard, to understand more about the world, to understand more about what you want to do and how you're able to do it, those will be the future successful people of the generations to come.
Great advice. I love what you said, including the Donald Trump, analogy, because a lot of people get upset and say, well, Donald Trump's father left him a substantial amount of money. Here's the thing I tell people all the time. If you took all of Donald Trump's money right now and gave him $1, he'll be rich again, because he's educated on what to do with money. It's not so much somebody giving you a leg up or giving you a substantial amount of money to start, because somebody could give your company a $300 million right now, but if you don't know what to do with that money to push your project forward, it still wouldn't help you. So to your point, it makes sense that you would do the work. I would just flat out say to anybody who's listening, stop being lazy, because that's one of our problems when we're trying to start something new. We want it to come quick, convenient, easy, with no trials, no problems. One of my mentors, Brian Bean, he calls it the straight line thinker. You don't want any problems or any setbacks. You want to go straight to the goal. I don't know any successful people with that story. Maybe it is, but I don't know of them either. But the thing is, when you say things like you got to study, get to know the world, culture, things around you, whatever it is that you are attracted to or passionate about or compelled to or connected to, it's there for a reason. Why not learn everything you can learn about it, so that when you do, like you said, add you to the equation, you're only enhancing what you're passionate about, as opposed to being stuck because I'm connected to something, but I don't know how to run it, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Well, back to the Donald Trump thing real quick. There were many times in his life where he didn't have money to invest in anything. And what he did before he lost his money was that he had a product to back his name. He had the experience and he had the network that he took the time to build. And just based on his name, he was able to guarantee deals and make a certain percentage off the deal. So even if your actual product doesn't move forward, you could still build that network and move up just based on a percentage of sales, and you can come back from that. That's just another example of the importance to putting in the work for your name and your product.
Real quick, talk about that because you just touched on it a little bit. But I went to a business seminar last year, and the community affairs relation department, the head of that department, she spoke about building a brand and how important it is to have a substantial, not a substantial, but a strong base for your brand. Talk about that, especially when it comes to your company, Core Entertainment.
How I started was that I always thought of my products as, and I know how silly this may seem just right off the bat, I always saw my products as like my children or like my baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept trying to refine certain stories that I've already heard before. And I spent more time throwing pages upon pages of work away and only keeping a small handful of saying, yes, this is what it actually is about. You really have to see it as the brand is you. Even if you own a company, the brand is you. What you are doing is your work. You're contributing to a larger cause.
Right.
When it comes to your impact for the community, your word goes on your actions and your behavior and how you built yourself. You become a foundation not only to your community, but also to your family and also for yourself to know that you were able to overcome all the odds. And when you think of all these people on this planet, for you to actually sit back and say, hey, 5,000 people or even one person bought my product, you can still see the light of success in that
Yes.
You've touched somebody
Yes.
and you're able to move forward. A lot of people nowadays, they can't take feedback. A lot of people want us to move towards soft language, indirect language, and just really not telling the person what is wrong with what they did.
Right.
When it comes to Core Entertainment, we want our products to hit beta stage as fast as possible. So this way people can tell us what is wrong with it. They're telling us, and this is how you can see feedback. The person who is already interested in your product is telling you what you need to do to keep them playing, keep them more entertained, something that they really want to see come to life. And you're also helping another person achieve something, like their voice has been heard. They don't feel like they've been ignored. It's a very powerful tool that companies outsource to third parties to try to get that information based off of surveys.
Mm-hmm.
With feedback, people really do want to tell you how they feel about it.
Right.
I remember hearing that a lot of people were disappointed in how Harry Potter ended, and that new feedback, the writer was J.K. Rowling was able to write a whole new series of books just based off of the feedback that she heard from so many people who even wrote alternate endings or alternate stories or things that should have happened in earlier books that didn't happen. And she was able to take that creative influence and give the people what they want.
Yep.
And we're moving towards a world where there is going to be more innovation, but the innovation has to come from the crowd to set the right direction, and it comes to the entrepreneur or the creator to basically set the parameters of where the innovation comes in play.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is awesome to have this type of insight and understanding coming from an area where we expect mostly just entertainment. It gives you a whole new perspective of the gaming industry and the minds of the creators of what. First of all, you gotta be an awesome person to create an idea, because everything that we do, this microphone I'm talking on, this iMac I'm looking at the screen right now, somebody's idea is in my living room, is in my studio, you know what I'm saying? Is in my home. The car that's out in the parking lot is somebody's idea. So for him to sit down and be able to create with a team of other creators, to put something out there that can possibly and easily become a classic, especially in today's day and age where you have, some games that don't make it as far, but some games that do. And this is what it's all about. When you are passionate about what you do, you can be a part of this. You can help support this and fund this. The goal is 200,000, and it's really not a hard goal if a lot of people can get together and make a small donation. And there's an incentive that's connected to it where you can have a piece of your creativity in this project. Now, once again, what is the GoFundMe link for anybody listening that wants to jump on an opportunity of funding this product?
The GoFundMe website, go to the toolbar or the search bar and type in CourEntertainment, one word, that's Core, C-O-U-R, Entertainment. You could also type in Spaceopolis, SPACE-OPOLIS.
Got it. Core Entertainment on GoFundMe or Spaceopolis, and you can have your voice or character. There's a number of possibilities because they have a number of things to fulfill for this particular product. Now, real quick, before we let you go, we live in a world of social media and different things of that nature. Can people follow you on Twitter, Instagram, any of these fantabulous, social sites?
Yes, they can. They could go on any number of the social media, even LinkedIn, and type in Christopher Coursey. Coursey, C-O-U-R-S-E-Y, just like the company. First name Christopher. You'll be able to find me. I am right now residing in the Atlanta area, so it won't show up as Florida, where the company is from. Kind of stuck here, helping out family and, just trying to, build better bonds and whatnot before I head back to Florida. But yeah, I'm more than willing to share, the design process, what tools you'll need to create games or even CGI film. I'm a very open book when it comes to this because I really like to see new products rather than rehashed versions of older products.
Got it. Now, since you're here in Atlanta, which is, by the way, where I'm at right now, currently in Atlanta, do you get involved in some of the festivals that come here as far as gaming?
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to. This company has kind of pushed me to go to areas that I am just starting to learn more about the business management side of things.
Okay.
My father does want to step away from the company, so I have to pick up the book, learn how to make deals with just not only with additional teammates or with foreign investors, but also with requirements for different consoles, different computers, to basically reach a wider audience and just to understand more of the demands of society and the requirements of what it takes to actually get there. So I haven't really been able to get involved with that. I have gotten a few invitations to operas, the Braves game that was just a couple of days ago. It's just, if work was able to permit me, I'd be able to attend those.
Got it. Well, welcome to Atlanta, and I think that
Thank you.
this product you have is great. Again, I'm super excited for you being on the show today because this is going to touch a lot of people, because a lot of people don't tell their ideas. For some reason, people think if they speak it, it's going to fall apart. But if you don't speak it, nobody can help you. So there are gamers, I'm pretty sure, people who want to get into game design and things of that nature. They don't know how. They're probably playing a game that they don't like the way it operates, and they feel like they can design something better. You have somebody here that you can get in contact with through social media. You can reach out to that can possibly steer you in the right direction. Now, is there any videos on YouTube where people can, view some of your product?
Currently, there's none at the moment. We're still working out the copyright and trademark issues.
Okay.
The issue is you have 10,000 assets, and all of them have to be checked with the Copyright and Trademark Office. And that's another thing that I was still learning about, was that a game is both a copyright and a trademark. How it operates is one, and the assets that make up that product is another one. So it's really a tedious process. And what this enables me to do is, while that's waiting, I'm able to work on the crowdfunding campaign. I'm able to reach out to more people, and I'm able to learn more of the business side of everything.
Got it. Well, Chris, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. I always do this to all my guests before they leave. The last thing I'm going to ask you is if you could say anything, I don't care what it is, anything to encourage those that are listening, regardless if they're into gaming or not, what would it be?
I would say learn from what you dislike. There's a reason why you don't like a certain product. There's a reason why you don't like a certain part of anything. And when it comes to that creativity, your creativity is sparked by one of two things: either an incredible passion to move forward, or a dislike to where you would want something changed that already exists. And when it comes to that incredible passion, some people aren't filled with that in the sense of the right direction. So you could always start from what you dislike and what would make it better. Like, what would make you want to watch a movie that you would never watch in a million years? And start writing that down. What would make you want to play a game that, you don't even want to waste your money on? What would incentivize you to listen to a soundtrack that you wouldn't be caught dead listening to? So you can also use negative traits of the industry to see inspiration. And those are the two cores of it: the passion and what you dislike, what you would want to change about it. And if you start from there, you cannot go wrong, as long as you don't take no for an answer.
Great advice. Ladies and gentlemen, my special guest, thank you so much for being on the show. Chris, you are welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to give you the information so you can be able to participate in this crowdfunding. And we'll be looking out for the project 2019. Thanks for being on Morning Inspiration.
Thank you.
Are you loving the inspiration you're getting from this episode? Let us know by logging on to our website, morninginspirationradioshow.com. Leave your comments, interact with us. You can even sign up for our mailing list. Log on now, morninginspirationradioshow.com.